Hey everyone, and welcome back to an unexpectedly exciting version of the WoW News. It actually seems like our impending Burning Crusade documentary was well timed, because the first official moves towards classic TBC have been made by Blizz. Past that, we've got a very welcome change to the live game that gives us a lot more to talk about and kind of tells us how Blizzard's thinking. First though, something big. In spite of the global situation, they arrived. Yes, our Hunter pins from the January Patreon, they are here. This is the style of our yearly class pin. If you want to see a real sexy montage, hit up the link down below. There's like a video of the glam shots. Oh man, they're so good. I just get so excited by stuff like that. Now, this month's is Mage. If you're on this month's Patreon, you can see its layout here. So that's kind of the style they'll be. They're up for pre-order now in our Patreon Master tier. Plus, of course, in the Master tier, you will get this gorgeous art as well for Human. So yeah, the patrons, they're the backbone of what we're doing. Seriously, ad rates in YouTube have fallen off a cliff. A fair few of our videos are actually now being made at a loss. If it wasn't for our patrons, we'd be in serious bother. Now, in return for their support, they get monthly physical loot, as well as early access to content and behind the scenes. So if you want to watch some stuff after this video, then I just posted my desk setup vlog over there, and the first two parts of our TBC retrospective are also live there as well. More vlogs to come shortly. So yeah, seriously, patrons, thank you. Like, you see those credits at the end of the video? They are the people who are keeping this show going, and we really appreciate it. With that, let's get into the news. So TBC Classic is hardly a surprise. Blizzard had mentioned that they were opening to do it all along, but they were focusing on vanilla first, which of course does make sense. Of course though, fast forward to now, and vanilla is well on its way to being complete. And with that, Blizzard are looking to the future and have began to solicit feedback from the player base. This comes in the form of a survey, one that rather funnily asks people not to share it. That didn't work. It, of course, was shared. Now, you might think, right, that this isn't a real story because it's just some survey on an email and it's marketing, it's not an announcement. And I get thinking that, fair enough, but I would remind you that the Shadowlands level squish, that was preceded months and months and months by a similar survey in which Blizzard talked about doing a level squish and asked people what they would think about it. These surveys do matter. These surveys are how Blizzard actually solicits targeted mass feedback. I mean, yeah, like moreover, Blizzard can target who gets those survey emails based on like what type of player type they are, if they want. So yeah, these surveys do matter. If you get one in your mailbox, like, do actually respond to it and let them know what you think. So let's talk about this TBC one. It was pretty short, there's only two questions. The first one is just how interested the person is for classic TBC servers, and the second is how they would want those servers to actually be implemented. Now, this bit has got very big consequences in the long run if we think about just extrapolating this into the future. Blizz gave people 5 options. First, to keep on playing your current character on your current server, and for that server to transition to the Burning Crusade, and then you getting an option, if you want to transfer that, to transfer your character to a level 60 locked one if you wanted just the classic experience. Now, that makes the most sense to me. It's more closely following what actually happened in game, so yeah, I think it would be good. Then the next option is for servers to remain classic locked, but then for new TBC servers to actually open up that people could transfer their characters to if they so wished. Then finally, there is starting a new level 58 character on a TBC server, or starting a brand new level 1 on a TBC server. And do remember, that would be before the TBC leveling nerfs that came with the Zulaman patch. So yeah, 1 to 70 would be a pretty hardcore affair there. Now, the final option is then none of the above. And I imagine if that was selected, I mean, what would that be a tacit vote for? Just another way of doing it? Maybe a classic plus? Maybe copying a character over to a new server as opposed to transferring a character? Anyway, look, point here is that Blizzard are clearly working out how they're actually going to implement the classic, the classic vanilla to classic TBC transition. I think that's abundantly clear. I want to help them with that, actually. That's a good thing. So I've mirrored their poll. You can find a link to it down below. Please do check it out, but also please do return to the video after clicking the link, because YouTube actually does penalize channels for linking off-site if that ends up ending someone's viewing session. Don't you love platforms? Seriously though, Blizz want to know what you think, so let's just all tell them what we think, and I'll send the results along. Okay, Personally, I actually think this is really major. How this is done is going to impact, say, Classic Wrath, and that's something that I really want, and of course anything beyond that. Now, I do think that advancing the current servers but offering a pure Classic option, I think that's the right way to go. I do think that each character, though, should be given like a free transfer, one free transfer on a character, or like per character basis. Now, in a way, though, you could say this project is a dead end, right? I mean, Classic Vanilla isn't going to keep everyone forever. It's a finite game. Same for TBC, same for Wrath, and Wrath will go even quicker. So does anyone want the other expansions, like maybe MOP for the classes and the raiding? I think you get my point, though. World of Warcraft here is one of Activision Blizzard's most important products in terms of revenue. So we're going to change gears here. If we were to think like an Activision Blizzard investor, what sort of moves would we want to see from the company to secure their long-term revenue streams? Well, we'd want WoW Classic to have a longer tail. Now, sure, Classic will help with core WoW engagement for the next 2 to 5 years, but this is the long game. A Classic Plus product, i.e. one similar to Jagex's old school RuneScape that they still actually do develop, that would be the clear winner for the company if it was done right. So how would you do that right? Well, you need to make more content that's still in the spirit of vanilla WoW. Now, I actually think in terms of development resources, that's super easy to do. Let's be real. Their systems back then were a bit more simple, as was their content. I mean, seriously, that team threw together Molten Core in like a fortnight. What I do see as a problem with that plan, though, is scaling. How much more numerical headroom is there before Classic starts to just fall apart? You know, like where class mechanics start to break down and things make less sense, and you hit the core breakpoints that then break the balance and the design of classes and bosses. So yes, there actually would be massive challenges to a Classic Plus, but I do think it's something that could be worth investigating. I mean, just thinking about player acquisition, I actually suspect that many people are interested in Classic and respect it, but they know that, or they think that in the long term it's a dead end because it's finite. And yes, we'd all be happier people if we could just live in the moment and enjoy things and not have to worry about stuff like that, but you get the point there. Knowing it's finite, I think, is a big turnoff for many people. So yeah, I mean, if Classic Plus was to happen, Blizz would need to work in, I think, just more sandbox elements, and for me what that means is expanding the player economy, maybe adding in just a few extra systems there to focus on. I think it's, you know, it's the things like that that have really kept old school RuneScape alive, and with its continued development, old school RuneScape is bloody massive. It's actually far larger than modern RuneScape, so there you go, food for thought, and with that, let's move on to modern WoW. For Shadowlands Alpha, there's only really one tiny update. Another build has been pushed, but it's again to the thing that only like the WoW devs and co can access. However, they a lot of the key data miners, which is I've forgotten his name, the WoWhead guy. The WoWhead guy and Marlamin, they were both tweeting about basically like I'll save the technical stuff, but a slightly different, basically a different upload of the alpha, which to them indicates that we could be a little bit closer. So, is it alpha? No. But could Alpha Watch 2020 actually be nearing its end? Maybe. It actually might. Alright, this story made me really happy. 2 months ago, I made a video about soloing Legion content. It was a blast to make. I really enjoyed it, but in the video, I was sad that Legacy Loot Mode didn't apply to Legion content, and that meant that Legion raids, they still drop gear based on the current personal loot system. So instead of killing a boss and getting a raid group's share of the loot, like you would in, say, Warlords of Draenor, well, you just get your single personal loot chance. And that meant that Mog farming Legion content was a real pain in the ass, and the only real reason to solo that stuff would be maybe just to do a night hold for the balance of power artifact appearance. So there was that going on. And I remember in that video saying that 8.3 had so little content that I thought it would be pragmatic for Blizzard to abandon their legacy loot policy just for the sake of giving players more stuff to do in the game. Well, I've got good news. They've done it. They're doing it. Okay, it's probably not because my video gave them the idea, but I'd at least hope that, you know, a whole bunch of us advocating for that is what, you know, actually made them understand and listen. I think this is a fantastic change for the game. I mean, seriously, soloing Legion content, I think, is really quite fun. Like, the mythics are actually kind of hard, and in some of them, like Karjatan, you gotta pay attention. It's at the stage where I'd actually be interested in progressing my character through 8.3 and getting really OP with corrupted gear, to power up so that I could do those mythic solos as a personal challenge. I just think that would be really fun and would add more gameplay for a lot of people. Of course, though, there's more to just soloing. Like, if you're just going in there with a friend, you're still going to benefit from this change. Now, as for why you'd want to go in there, well, this is a pretty exciting bit. Legion had incredible sets. I mean, hey, I guess Blizz just abandoned class sets when they were ahead, eh? Because, whew, BFA was a bit rough there, wasn't it? Like, I just love the armor design of Legion for so many classes, and you can now work towards those mog sets in your own time, and it'll be worth doing. The Legion raids are, like, really fun. They're epic in scale, they're gorgeous, they're enjoyable to solo. We're right at the stage in that power curve where there's, you know, a lot of it's super, super doable, but if you really want to push yourself, you can challenge yourself with the mythics. If you're the type of player who enjoyed maybe pushing Horrific Vision solo, then I think there's a good chance you might really enjoy pushing those Mythic Legion raids. Now, past the sets, you can also get special weapon appearances from Maiden, Agrimar, and Argus. Those weapons are really cool, and the Scythe from Argus actually matches the Shadowlands Transmog set as well. So there you go, that's another pretty cool thing. Blizz, thank you for doing this. Genuinely, this is great. And for me, this also represents you deviating from a policy for the sake of being pragmatic. Now, that's not buckling, that's being smart, and I respect that. 2 weeks ago, you guys did the same thing for account-wide essences. You deviated from a philosophical policy, kinda. Now, that was a great move, and it's the type of decision-making that I think will really pay back for you guys in the long run. I just wish that, you know, Blizzard applied that kind of thinking when it came to, say, Azerite Reforging or Azerite Gear, like, level stuff in 8.0, because you could have just scrapped those systems and the game would have been better, or maybe the GCDs during beta, but, I mean, I suppose that change shows how far they've came. Look at the Shadowlands announcement. That represented Blizzard slaying a whole bunch of RNG, increasing weekly chest fairness, unpruning classes, and making a commitment to alt-friendliness in the future design of World of Warcraft. Now, they then did follow that up by being just absolutely as thick as a brick wall and stubborn when it came to the account-wide essences initially, but they sort of changed in that afterwards. So do you see what I'm getting at here? Blizzard actually seemed far more willing to deviate from their past decisions and policies. And if we're to read into that, I think this is a Blizzard who's maybe seeing things from a player's perspective a bit more. Maybe they've noticed that they've made a lot of mistakes, and that is one of the things that made them not see problems early enough. So it's a really good sign. It's just smart, small changes like this that actually do give me more hope for the Shadowlands testing period. And that is a good thing. Now, finally, one thing. There's a few bosses that can't be soloed. So if Blizzard were to add maybe a diminishing return to the Dog's Fear on Heroic so that, you know, maybe non-warriors could do it, or Iminar Sleep canisters, then there'd be no roadblocks there. And I think that would be a good move to make. Anyway, let's move on. So based on that segment we just did, we've got this sort of new, more responsive Blizzard. At least I think, and I hope. And that's got me thinking, look, if Shadowlands is a long, long way away, and if it's behind schedule anyway, and then had this global situation compounding in that, you know, what if we don't get Shadowlands in 2020? Look, I'll say this, if that's what it takes for Shadowlands to release in a state where the devs are happy with it and it's a better game, then I actually would support that delay. We can't have another BFA. Now, if that is the case, then 8.3 is going to be the main patch for a long-ass time, isn't it? If so, are there other pragmatic moves that Blizzard could make? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and if you like someone's idea, upvote it. We're all in this together, we're all going to help as much as we can. Now, off the top of my head, I'd say this. MOP-style boosts. When MOP had its content drought, Blizzard did boost months for various things, and we've kind of seen that with the leveling, though of course that's tied into other things, and that might just be a smart way to get a bit more engagement. I mean, hey, maybe a coalescing vision boost, right? You know, catch up your alts with XP, and then catch them up with that, maybe work towards some cosmetics, you know, do some visions. That could all work quite well together. I do also think they should consider increasing time walking frequency by making it happen in addition to other events, even just temporarily. So maybe 2 time walkings per month, right? That might be good. And with TBC and Kata ones bringing in a raid, and there being so many alts, that might be another pragmatic move. Perhaps they could even do like an expansion-themed reputation boost, or maybe, if not that, maybe they could get some cut content, like maybe unused tints, put those onto reps. You know, just more stuff that people could get that wouldn't involve doing a lot of development work. That might be something to think about here. Now, past that kind of thing, if we really did have an 8.3.5, but one that just could not have a lot of new content, then there could be some smart content reuse that Blizzard could do. Like, look, would it be possible to take a time-walking dungeon and just to increase all the numbers, to make it rock hard, right? Imagine a weekly rotation of really hard time-walking dungeons, maybe ones that feel like Kata dungeons on launch, or old-school TBC ones. That would be a new activity, and with the TBC classic hype existing, I think players would really appreciate that. You know, make the loot really good, make them tuned to be very hard, but without the time trial stuff or the affixes that many people don't like. I'd be so much more interested in that than playing regular time walking, which, I mean, kind of puts me to sleep because it's so trivial a lot of the time. Then, in a similar vein, you could do the same with old raid bosses. I mean, remember the raid weekly quest from Wrath of the Lich King? Stuff like that. You know, that could be another fun weekly rotation, especially, and here's the key, if they were tuned up to be heroic-like difficulty. It can't be, you know, just LFR BS that no one will care about. Anyway, that's just some quick ideas. I think you get the point. I think it would be a pretty pragmatic thing for Blizzard to do, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So there you go. Is there, in absolute terms, a lot of World of Warcraft news this week? I mean, not really, okay? But overall, you know, are these interesting stories that are really good that actually could be indicating sort of future really good things? I do think so. Anyway, there you go. That is it for today's edition of the Warcraft news. If you want to watch one of my recent vlogs. I mean, I just filmed one in coffee. There's my desk set up live in Patreon right now. If you want to do that and you also want to watch the first 2 episodes of our TBC retrospective, like what we did for Classic but for TBC, and I think the TBC one's a good bit more sharpened up as well, you can check them out on Patreon. And then, of course, the pins. If you want these gorgeous class pins, this is the Hunter one from January, so the people who were there for that, these will be shipping out very soon. They just arrived in our office, well, I mean, which I'm the only person in because of obvious reasons. Yeah, so the other ones will be in this style between gold and silver in a case-by-case basis. The pre-orders are open now, and we'll show you, like, you'll see the layout and then a picture of this, so you sort of know what the layout is and then what they actually look like physically in person. I mean, yeah, just if you want to like take a closer look at these, because just from a design perspective, I think these are so fascinating, because you can't really see it that well on the camera here. I've got some real just sexy B-roll of them linked down below that, yeah, you can check out. Seriously though, patrons, thank you so much. This has been a stressful time to be running a business, especially because, you know, we have scaled up, right? We've got employees. There's a reason why I say that 18-minute lore video was as heavily, from like yesterday, was as heavily edited as it is. It's because, you know, it took a lot of time. That was like 2 full days of a member of staff. And even, you know, like over with the news channel, yes, those videos are a quicker turnaround, but now because the ad rates have fallen off, I mean, that's a real struggle, right? There's some of those videos, they are not breaking even. It's a pretty challenging situation. Now, we're really lucky. You know, we're not a restaurant, we're not a bar. We're not in a situation where, you know, we're super heavily impacted by this. We are digital, but there are also just ramifications for the digital space as well. Anyway, my goal is to provide as much content for you guys as I can, both here and in the patrons of the people, or Patreon for the people who are backing us there. Because at the end of the day, we're all stuck at home, and the more content, the merrier, I think. So, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.